Hello, everyone. Good morning. So, Vaughn and Mike here with Spirit of Health. We're doing another staff training, but we're actually hopefully kind of training all of you as well to kind of the latest and greatest just information we have on different products, new products. We did a staff training a few years ago on various sections, but it's been a few years and things change. We learn new things, and I did those by myself and not with Mike, so he adds other information and knowledge. So our training today is on ear, nose, and throat, and I use that terminology because many people are familiar with ENTs, doctors that do ear, nose, and throat. So we're going to hit those different areas, which is going to cover a variety of things related to allergies and asthma and sinus conditions and different things. So yes, that's our topic today. And yeah, let's get started.
Great, yeah. So we want to start talking about ear infections, dizziness, vertigo.
Yep.
What's your go-to?
I have a couple cool stories. So I'll start with the story because the testimony is always really cool. I have a lot of people that have come in and said they've been diagnosed with like Meniere's disease. You might have heard of that. Vertigo, dizziness. But I had this one interesting guy who came in and told me that he was diagnosed with labyrinthitis. Who's heard of labyrinthitis? Like, it's amazing how many different terms they have for various disease conditions. Different itises. So we know itis is inflammation of something, right? So he was diagnosed with labyrinthitis. I'd never heard of that. But he was dizzy for 20 years. He had had this diagnosis. And he was so dizzy, he couldn't walk long distances. He couldn't drive his car. He had to have someone else take him to his appointment. He was an older guy, probably like in his 60s. And he came to see me just to see if there's anything we could do. And this is such a cool story because I gave him two things. He spent maybe $20. And when he came back in 2 weeks, he said, it's gone. I have no more dizziness, vertigo, drove himself to his follow-up appointment. And then what's cool is subsequently, I would see him from time to time, months and now years later, never came back, never been a problem. So it just goes to show you that we don't have to have these issues long term. I do think it's unfortunate that our medical system has such little to offer people in helping to bring healing and resolution to sometimes a very simple issue. And so there are simple solutions out there. So let me just share with you what I gave specifically to him, and then we can talk about some other things. But I'm going to show you the $20 he spent. And I'm not saying this is everybody's solution to dizziness and vertigo and things like that. But and then maybe we can get into explaining like why people have these issues. Yeah. But what I gave him was ear candles. A lot of people have heard of ear candles, right? Ear candles. You can watch a YouTube video on how to do an ear candle, but it basically pulls wax and it uses heat to do that, and kind of, I guess you'd call it like centrifugal force or whatever. It just like draws out. And these have been around for thousands of years, and I've seen great success with people using ear candles. And he did a couple ear candles in each ear. That's one thing he did. And the other thing he did was this simple Sinuo Rega sinus spray, North American Herb and Spice, just a very, very potent, powerful sinus spray that opens up the breathing passages and clears stuff out. So again, that's what he used. 20 years of suffering with dizziness and vertigo, gone, and didn't come back. So that's a cool story.
Yeah, so it doesn't always have to be complicated. Sometimes there are deeper things going on too. But yeah, sometimes you just do a couple things that can open up and clear out the passageways, and boom, everything's better. Yeah, and I know you've used that Sinuo Rega forever. Ever since I've been here 5.5 years, we've always recommended that for constant things. If nobody's tried it and you have sinus issues, congestion, I mean, it's super powerful. And it is a little bit intense, but it's powerful in the things that are in there that can clear out, flush out the sinuses, the nasal cavities, but also has powerful botanicals that can kill bacteria, kill fungus, kill mold, stuff like that. So.
Yep. Cool. So let's give people an understanding. Let's give all of us an understanding of what's going on up here. And I'll give you a couple of concepts to understand, because again, if you go to a conventional doctor, they might not explain these things to you, or they might not even fully understand these things. When you got stuff going on up here, you're dealing with a couple of things. You're dealing with mucus, and usually you're dealing with infection. So we're talking mold and fungus, and I would say with some of the things we've been learning recently with Cellcore, parasites coming out of people's noses in the sinus cavities. I know it sounds like a weird movie or something, but bacteria it is too. A reality.
Any type of microbes and parasites can be in an area of congestion.
Yes. So when you have stagnation, congestion, mucus, you can have infectious issues. So that's what's going on. Why do people have chronic sinusitis? Why do people have chronic ear infections that come and go? It's congestion and buildup and mucus and infections. And so that's what we need to be addressing. Now, I'm not saying the medical community doesn't understand this at all. In fact, I feel like they do to some extent, because what is one thing that they're going to recommend over and over and over for your sinus infection? Antibiotic, right? So they clearly know that an antibiotic helps because there's an infection, but what they're not doing is giving us long-term support, how to change the diet related to helping clear your sinuses, a healthy way to clear the infection long-term, how to drain and remove mucus out of the body so that, again, long-term you can have good, healthy sinus cavities and not just keep going on about your way and taking an antibiotic every time you have a major problem, which is what happens
just
a lot.
Compounds it and actually makes it worse long-term.
Right.
Yeah, and if people don't know, there's lots of passageways that are all connected up here through the lymph and through between the nose, the sinus cavity, the ears, all of that. So yeah, congestion is a big thing. So let's talk about, a little bit about diet. What causes mucus, congestion, just on the diet side of things. So dairy is probably one of the biggest ones that we see. All types of dairy are mucus forming, congesting. Some are worse than others, but we just recommend really people stay away from dairy because there's too many issues with it, especially if somebody's dealing with chronic mucus, congestion. That's a big one, and a lot of times people stop that and notice a big improvement as time goes on with wow, or they notice they stop it for a few weeks or a month and then they have it and it's like, oh, instant, I'm congested again and I can feel it, and now they know that that's going on. But also processed grains, processed sugar, so this is your breads, your pastries, your candies. I mean, I know everybody likes this type of stuff, but those are very mucus forming and congesting. Right. So it's better to stay away from those and avoid those if you're having those issues, and just in general for your health.
And I've seen, another quick story is I had a couple that came in, and this was the couple came in, the husband and wife came in together, but the appointment was for the woman. The husband was there for support, but I had talked to her about getting off of dairy, and they decided that as a couple they were going to do it together. And it was cool, and they came in for a follow-up appointment like a month later. The man, again, it wasn't his appointment, but the man who went off of dairy said that his chronic sinus issues he'd had for 10 years were completely gone. Just stopping dairy and only doing it because he wanted to do it and support his wife in her healing program. So just, again, an example of how something we're eating can lead to this sinus congestion and mucus and all these things.
Yeah, another mention on ear infections, and again, all of this is connected. So also to relate it to dizziness is because a lot of your equilibrium is regulated inside your ear. So if there's congestion in here, that could be the cause of your vertigo, dizziness, getting that cleaned out. But another thing we'd like to use a lot for ear infections, for kids, for adults, the Ear Be Well kit. This is by Wish Garden. They sell an Ear Be Well kit. It's two products combined together. So it's their ear oil and their Ear Be Well product you take internally. So basically, I love this. I've given this to so many people, parents, adults, for their kids. So the one product you take internally helps actually move the lymphatic system. So the lymph system is part of draining and removing waste and mucus internally. So you can take it internally. It can actually help with the lymphatic system draining internally, but then there's an ear oil you put directly in the ear that can kill infection, cleanse. I mean, kind of similar concept to the ear candles, but it's actually using a drop that's safe for the ears that can cleanse and have antibacterial, antimicrobial effect. So
let me give you a personal example, because I have 3 kids, right? And almost most parents who have kids at some point deal with ear infections, right? We have friends that we know who children have dealt with ear infections. One in particular who dealt with it chronically actually ended up having to go get a surgery, get tubes in the ear, the whole works. And that's unfortunate. I don't think it's necessary. I think it has to do with, again, not understanding diet and cleansing these things out of the system. So, what do you think about our 3 children? Do you think they've ever had an ear infection? There's nobody to answer that question. So our children have never had an ear infection. Now, our diet obviously is pretty clean. We don't do dairy. We don't do certain things. So I think, one, that's a testimony to a good diet, being linked to being able to avoid congestion that can lead to ear infections. However, you know, we have had our children multiple times, and I would say all 3 of them at some point or another, where they kind of are getting sick and they're kind of doing this thing where they're kind of pulling on their air, and I can tell there's something not right there. And what we've done every time in those situations, I'm going to give you guys a really, really simple tool to use that costs you basically nothing. Hydrogen peroxide. 3% hydrogen peroxide that you can get in any drugstore. Now, we do the food grade peroxide. It doesn't have all the chemicals and the stabilizers and stuff in it. But what you do is you get a little dropper, right? And you just put a couple drops in each ear, let it sit in the ear for, 15, 20 seconds, and then have them come up and just kind of let it drain. And anytime our children have even hinted that something's not right with that ear, we'll do a couple drops of peroxide and it's taken care of it. Our children have never, ever had a serious ear infection, not one time. So, cool.
Yeah,
all right,
peroxide's great. And some people, it has gotten to a pretty chronic level, and they might need to do more. And that's especially, or sometimes I've even had people do the hydrogen peroxide and alternate it with the Ear Be Well kit, because they're taking some internally, it's draining lymph. You can also massage to help drain, and then doing stuff internally as well. But yeah, we're big on prevention. Prevention is always better than waiting till it boils over into some big thing. And yeah, diet, exercise, different lifestyle things can all play into that. So,
and let me just summarize this real quick for you guys, especially you parents who are trying to be empowered to take care of your children. Heat is an important concept, and the oil. If you heat the oil, and a lot of times you can do heat the oil a little bit, and that heat and that oil will actually loosen things up in there. So just an idea of what you could do, and I'm just going to give you an example of what you could do. You could heat the oil, put the oil in there, let that sit for a while, let that work. Then you could do an ear candle. So again, you've got the heat, you've got the oil, you got things loosened up. You do the ear candle to start to pull and draw some stuff out. And then maybe you could do the peroxide when things are more cleared out. I think with our children, the peroxide worked right away because I don't think they have as much congestion. Again, we don't eat dairy, they don't eat sweets, they don't eat those things. And so they don't have, we're able to catch it quick, the peroxide works quick, but I've seen parents where the peroxide didn't work. Yeah. So again, if you haven't changed the diet, if they do have some congestion up here, you might need to do the ear oil, ear candles, and then maybe the peroxide later, just giving you an idea and some understanding on how you might navigate that with your children.
Yeah, so I don't know how you would heat the oil, but I would probably recommend people just heat up a bowl of water, hot water, put the oil in there. That's a way to do it. Also put in a hot washcloth here. Yeah, heat, movement. People have access to an infrared sauna. There's all sorts of stuff like that, or a heating pad. Lay. Yeah, heat, movement helps to move things.
Yes, we have it's called a biomat. It's an amethyst crystal mat. My kids call it the hot mat. And so anytime anybody's sick or not feeling good, they're like, I want to lay on the hot mat. Like they know the hot mat, the heat helps them, and it helps them feel better, and it helps things drain. So, yeah, heat's important.
Well,
all right.
Cool.
We move on?
Move on to sinus congestion.
Yeah, let's talk about sinuses.
Talking about it a little bit, but sinus congestion, sinusitis.
Yes.
Sinus infections, just the whole 9 on all that. And some people, it gets pretty serious. They have to have intense surgeries. That is very invasive, and there's a lot you can do before it ever gets to that point to, again, prevent, and or if you're starting to have those issues, cut it out. And we already talked about diet and some of these basic things, but...
Have you ever done this?
Neti pots. Yes. Neti pots are awesome.
Start here.
Neti pots are great. You're basically putting a solution of water and sea salt, and you're putting it in. So it's like a teapot with an opening, and you're putting the teapot directly in one nostril and turning your head, and it's going to go up into the sinuses, up through the nose, and drain out the other side is the goal. Sometimes people are really congested, but getting those in there. And I have had people actually add other things, because the warm water, sea salt, again, heat, and the sea salt's got a lot of benefits for antibacterial, antimicrobial, but you can add other things if you're adventurous.
Yes. You want to tell them some of the things you can add to your neti pot?
Oregano oil, that's kind of intense.
That's intense.
But I have had people do that.
Come on.
On Guard.
Eucalyptus?
Yeah, eucalyptus. On Guard, or Thieves by some of the essential oil companies. That's a blend of things that are very antibacterial, antimicrobial. So you can add extra things to it, but yeah, that's going to help to get fluid up in there and actually flush it out. And I've heard some crazy stories and seen some things of people flushing out just all sorts of junk. So
quick story. I like the stories. Sorry, I think they're helpful. I think the testimonials are cool.
Yeah.
But I had a gal who had chronic mold toxicity. When I tested her, she was 42 times the toxic level for mold. Changed a bunch of stuff around for her lifestyle. She had kids. She was like, whatever it takes to get better. Well, she had the major sinus stuff. And she started teaching me, because she started researching this, what works. She started doing some things in the neti pot, and she said literally she had globs of like jelly-like junk coming out of her sinus cavity. She said it was almost gelatinous and thick, like jelly. And it was all this old mucus and congestion and stuff like that. Now, I don't know the exact recipe, but I know it was things like silver. Like we talked about silver with the immune section. Iodine is something that you can put in there. Baking soda is something you can put in there. Xylitol, which we don't have xylitol here, but xylitol is actually what's called a biofilm buster, and actually breaks up the biofilms that mold and funguses and things can create in your sinus cavity. So there's actually pretty amazing things you can add to a neti pot. And I'll give you a quick little recipe just because I know it, is you can combine sea salt with baking soda and xylitol in your neti pot. And just be aware, because these are all antifungals, anti-mold. It might burn a little bit. It is really going to clear some stuff out. And this is something we do with our kids when they're sick. They can't breathe at night. They're all congested, mucusy. We do the neti pot with that stuff, and they just drain mucus and gunk out. That's your goal, is to get that stuff out.
And it's maybe good to say, I mean, not everybody has these really intense situations, but there are additional things. And, we deal with people clinically that have really bad mold toxicity and mast cell activation issues, and just a lot of things that are beyond the scope of what we're going to try to teach here today. But there are some really intense, awesome things you can do. And just talking more about sinus infections, and sometimes it's just a congestion thing that has a little bit of microbial, parasitical action going on there, but sometimes it's a deeper rooted issue. It's good to be aware. If somebody's got chronic sinusitis or chronic sinus things, you may want to look a little deeper and make sure you don't have mold mycotoxins built up in your body, that you're not exposed to mold in your house.
Right.
And, there's different things that can be going on that could be deeper going on. But there are some simple solutions also that you can try, and a lot of times it works really quick. And if it's not fully working, you can ramp it up, but you also might want to dig a little deeper. And there are answers to be had on what's going on and how to get that fixed.
So we'll talk about a couple of our favorite things. We talked about the neti pot. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Talked about the Sinio Rega spray. The sinus spray is really good. Let me mention one other nasal spray we really like. It's this one by Nutrabiotic. Just the combination of things in here is amazing. Let me read the ingredients. It's got the xylitol in it, which I mentioned is a biofilm buster. Works really good for clearing up mold and fungus. It's got ginseng in it, which is interesting, echinacea, golden seal, milk thistle, butcher's broom, salt, and peppermint oil and menthol. So it's really going to open you up.
Yeah.
This is a good formula.
I like that
Nutrabiotic.
one. I use that one a lot, and it's really awesome. It seems to work really well.
Nasal spray plus.
Yeah, and for people that the Sinio Rega is maybe a little too intense for, I mean, this one's still potent and still a little intense, but maybe a little less in the intensity of the feeling.
Yes.
But works really great.
I have to tell you, I had a lady tell me on the Sinio Rega with complete seriousness, please warn people the first time they try this, and make sure they don't try this for the first time while they're driving. I had a lady tell me that. because she was literally driving and took the sinus spray, and it was so intense that she thought she was going to like
Do
wreck.
not use while operating a motor
Heavy
vehicle.
right,
Or
heavy machinery, right, exactly.
Yeah,
So-
and then this sinus detox. So Vaughn really was the initiator
I
and the
love this
creator of
formula.
this, and we've
Yeah.
had some awesome stories. But yeah, tell
Yeah.
us about the tea.
So sinus and brain steam detox. This is a Spirit of Health original formula. I like this one because I came up with this formula. And again, just so many people dealing with chronic sinus issues. I wanted a good formula that people could use to open up the breathing passages, but also have the strong antimicrobial herbs, again, to kill the infection, to kill the fungus and the mold and the bacteria and the things that are kind of clogging up those mucus passages. So let me tell you what's cool about while I was creating this formula, I hadn't finalized the formula yet, and there's a couple pretty funny stories connected to the creation of this formula, because we had an employee, I'll just share it.
Yeah, well, we
You
all
wanna
had
share
to
it?
test different
We all
batches
tested
of
it,
this
yes.
before we eventually got it figured out.
And we learned pretty quickly that menthol is really strong. And menthol, you have to be careful not doing too much, because it's like it's piercing of the sinus cavity, which isn't bad, but too much for some people, not good. But I remember doing a consult with a guy, and he had chronic sinus issues for like 10 years, didn't want to do the surgery, was looking for solutions. And I said, well, hey, I'm making this formula. It's not complete yet. I'll give you some for free. Do you want to try it out? And I said, all I ask is that you let me know. And a week later, he came back. He's like, Vaughn, amazing. He said the first time he did it, he had like just, I don't know how to describe it, just let's just say lots of mucus. He had major, major drainage of mucus and stuff come out of his sinus cavities, and it completely cleared his 10 years of sinus problems, just trying this one time. And so, yeah, I really like this formula. And what you do with it, just so you know how to use it, is this is something where you boil water in a pot, and you add the herbs to the boiling water, and then you take a towel and you put it over, so it's basically like a steam bath or whatever you want to call it, but you're basically, it's a sinus and steam detox basically. And so you're just breathing in all of these herbs and the menthol, and you're covering it with a towel. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Steam inhalation I think is always powerful.
Yeah.
I've always recommended that to people. I mean, even if it's just the water, the hot water with the steam, trapping that heat, again, loosens things up for the lungs and the sinuses and all that. But yeah, then you can add things in it. But it was cool. We created, Vaughn created this tea that, with the menthol and with these herbs that are antibacterial and open up the breathing passageways. So that's been an awesome thing to do. But yeah, and you can also use things like essential oils. I just happened to grab this one. This is by doTERRA. We sell this. It's called Breathe. And it's a great respiratory formula for, again, opening up the passageways, eucalyptus, peppermint, rosemary, stuff like that. So those are all great for opening up the passageways for the lungs and the sinuses.
Let me share, too, with the sinus and brain steam detox. I'm just going to mention the ingredients real quick just so you know what's in it. Eucalyptus, peppermint, thyme, oregano, orange peel, menthol, and Himalayan pink salt. You can actually drink this as a tea. I didn't mention that. You could just make this up and drink it as a tea. Now, what some people do is they'll do the steam, and then afterwards they can strain the herbs out and drink it as a tea. The only thing I'd be cautious of what might drip into the water, right, while you're doing this. But I'm letting you know, like it's a reality, but I've had this as a tea, and I think what I feel, you feel opened up, but I feel this amazing, like, alertness and this awareness. Like, when you take these herbs that kind of open everything up, you just feel awake and alert. Yeah. It's a really neat feeling. So try this as a tea, too.
Peppermint and menthol are a little stimulating, awakening. A lot of people put peppermint on their foreheads and stuff. Mm-hmm. But cool. Yeah, good tea. Well,
we can keep moving down. Why don't we hit should we hit allergies? Probably
should
hit
about allergies briefly,
because that involves a lot of this stuff too.
Yeah, and obviously congestion and some of that can be a part of it. But we can talk about some practical products, good things that people can do to help. Yeah, seasonal allergies or, we especially get that a lot here. We're in the Midwest. people move here, they're not used to it, and yeah, we have the harsh seasons, and there's a lot of things blooming in the
Right.
spring, and yeah, then there's different things happening in the fall, and so a lot of people having allergies, and again, there could be some deeper things going on with the immune system or congestion related to that, but we have some awesome products.
Let me just share before we get into the products is, I think education is important, and there's a lack of understanding on what allergies are and how to properly, take care of them. Because again, the mainstream approach is that, well, you just have allergies and that's what it is. Yeah. And you are going to take antibiotics if it's really bad because there's an infection, or you're going to take Claritin, or like, what is some of that other stuff, Mucinex, or all these things. And what I want people to understand, we always try to look at this from a godly perspective, a design perspective, that everything's happening is supposed to happen. Like, you're supposed to get mucus, and that mucus is supposed to push something out of your body because it's not supposed to be in there. So what do these drugs do? They actually stop the production of mucus. Yeah. They dry out your mucous membranes. So it's not only working against how God designed the body to work to remove these things, but it actually pushes the sickness and the infection deeper inside the body, which down the road, especially when you do this to kids, is you're creating chronic illness later down the road.
Yeah. So we always talk about, we want to recognize what the body's trying to do and help assist it. And that's what we talk about with the heat, with movement, with sinus rinses. We're helping the body expel this stuff that's happening. And then, yeah, with allergies, a lot of times, yeah, people are, their system might already be overwhelmed, and they're not able to process this stuff. Because, yeah, other people, obviously, you're exposed to things, and it's not an issue. But people's systems can be overwhelmed, their immune system, with different things going on with leaky gut. Things are getting into the bloodstream that aren't supposed to be there, and they're reacting to these things. So there are powerful products you can use that can help this process. But yeah, we don't want to just stop the process. We want to help it, but then use some things that are helping at the cellular level, actually assisting it, not just shutting it all down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So one of the biggest ones we use a lot is, this is by Orthomolecular. It's called D-Hist. Sounds, it's pretty straightforward. 4 histamine reactions. So it's like a natural antihistamine.
Right.
And this works on a lot of different levels. I'll read you some of the ingredients. Vitamin C. It's got a fairly high amount of vitamin C, 300 milligrams. Quercetin, stinging nettle leaves, bromelain, and N-acetylcysteine. So yeah, and I know stinging nettle, people have used that for a lot. We actually have an allergy tea, and it's based around a lot of nettle leaf, and it's just an herbal formula. But it's nice to have some of these other things in it, like the bromelain that helps to break down proteins, quercetin, vitamin C. So these can help with these natural antihistamine reactions. The N-acetylcysteine helping with liver. The liver processes a lot and it's filtering the blood. And so, yeah, a great formula that can help, and it's all natural. It's not going to hurt anything. Yep.
And there's actually a children, we're going to do a children's section later, but there is a children's version of this.
Yeah.
And this is a thing we have at home. Like, we talk about, like, what should you have at home in your medicine cabinet? Like, you should have D-Hist, the D-Hist Junior for kids. You should have these things at home in your medicine cabinet, because it was just a week or two ago where one of our daughters was having some itchy response, and who knows what, if it's something she encountered when she was outside, if it was something she ate, we didn't know, but she was complaining of, like, itching in these different parts of her body, and I just gave her that D-Hist Junior, and whatever it was just gone. It just disappeared. So these things definitely work, and they're good just to have on hand.
It's a good mention. Obviously, we're talking about allergies and, like, more seasonal allergies. That's what's most common, but yeah, things happen with rashes, and, kids are out playing in the woods, they get, in contact with something and have a reaction, have a rash, have something going on. So yeah, instead of running to the Benadryl and different antihistamines, you can use something like this and have on hand that can stop the histamine reaction. But also trying to do things to help. And again, these are helping at the cellular level with actually processing what's going on in the body, not just like shutting it down. But it can help to dissipate the reactions.
Right. Yep. So I've been using this Hello Blossom by Herbally Grounded for years and years and years. And let me just tell you why it works and why I like this formula. So it has a lot of those same herbs in it. It's got the nettle that we've been talking about, horseradish, which is really nice for opening things up. horehound, mullein leaf, ginger root, eyebright, feverfew. So the wisdom behind this formula is that the first ingredient is actually bentonite clay.
Yeah.
So clay is a binder, and clay is going to grab allergens. It's going to grab things that are foreign to the body that shouldn't be there and help draw them out. So it has herbs in there that I just mentioned, the nettle, the eyebright, all these things that kind of help with this allergy histamine response, helping with circulation in this area, and then the clay binds them. So how I've told people to use this formula that I've been successful with for many, many years, especially now, this is especially really good for the seasonal allergies. The D-Hist, by the way, will work really good also with like food allergies and food sensitivities, by the way. But this Hello Blossom, what I tell people to do is take 2 every couple hours. So maybe you start at 8 in the morning and you take 2 every couple of hours until you get the relief you're looking for. And because you will get to that area where you get relief if it's seasonal allergy related. And then 4 days your maintenance. So maybe like 2 in the morning, 2 at night for maintenance long term. But you have to heavier dose it in the beginning because it's different for every person, the load that's on their body, how bad their allergies are, whatever. So
yeah, and again, these are all natural ingredients, so it's not going to hurt anything. If you take too much Benadryl, there's some issues with that, and
yes,
and there's always negative side effects to those types of things. So we're working with the body. Yeah, and I've heard great feedback with that one. Love that the bentonite clay is in there.
Mm-hmm.
And on that mention, and I mentioned like rashes and stuff like that. Again, the body is trying to push something out through the skin. So rather than just put a cream on it that's going to stop it, we can assist that process. So I have people take bentonite clay powder sometimes and mix it with some water, make a paste out of it, and put it on there and let it dry, and it'll draw and pull stuff out of the skin. Or put it in a bath. You can mix that bentonite clay powder. I recommend if people put it in a bath to actually blend it in a blender with water to smooth it out. Otherwise, if you just throw it in the bath, it can clump up.
Right.
But you can blend that up, pour it in the bath, and again, it's helping to draw things out of the skin. It's assisting what the body's trying to do.
Right.
While we're attacking it internally as well. So.
Right. And just to clarify, taking the stuff internally is actually dealing with it at the root of where the real issue is, which is in the organs, it's in the blood. That's why it's coming out through the skin, is the body's trying to get rid of it. So if you bind it and remove it internally, then it won't come out through the skin. People don't realize that skin issues are, again, they're a symptom of something inside the body that the body's trying to get out.
Yeah.
Right?
And we have some other good allergy products. Just those are some of our favorites. But we also have, by Wish Garden, a Kick It allergy if people like liquids. It's a liquid herbal that they can take. And it's a great formula, too. We like liquids. They're fast-acting.
Yeah.
And we have another one called Histamine Balance. That's by Bell Lifestyle. It's a capsule. But we do feel like, the Herbally Ground and the D-Hist are the most powerful ones.
Yep.
So,
should we go to, I want to go to throat, cough?
Throat, cough, that's a big one.
If
Obviously,
we're moving down.
We're heading into that season.
Right.
Unfortunately. But,
Yep.
Yep.
So let's see. Go to let's go right after the heavy hitter. I mean, this stuff we've had for a couple years is called Protect. Anybody here tried the Protect? Yeah, pretty potent stuff, huh? So this stuff will it'll knock out anything. I tell people seriously, if you're worried about mono, strep. I've had parents give this to their kids with whooping cough because they didn't want to get a vaccine or whatever, and they didn't want to go to the doctor. So I'm talking serious
very potent
throat issues.
Yeah.
Man, it's really strong. So
Yeah.
just be prepared, adult or child, especially child, be prepared that they're not going to be in love with this. But man, it works.
Yeah.
It's really strong.
Love this formula. It works great. They formulated this to be strong enough to kill strep throat, pretty quickly. And again, something you can use more acutely, or people use this, they call it Protect, for protecting, and doing it preventatively. The formulator of this, I know we've talked to, and he said, if you're traveling, you can take it with you, and if you're concerned about being around a bunch of other people, you can spray this every once in a while in your throat, and it's going to kill basically anything going on there. But it has a multifaceted approach, and it's these really strong extracts and fermented herbs, and it's awesome. But it'll open up the passageways, the sinuses, the lungs. It'll kill things. It has a soothing effect, too, to the throat. as well. So it's multifaceted, and I just find that really powerful to knock things out quickly.
Let me explain what they are real quick. There's a Protect Turmeric. So that's for overall immune system building and strengthening, which would be really important right now. So take the turmeric one if you want to build, strengthen your immune system, prevent those kind of things. Then there's a garlic thyme. And the garlic thyme is really good for the throat and down into the chest. And so for lung issues, breathing issues, the garlic thyme, because garlic and thyme are two of the strongest, antimicrobials, antifungal, anti-mold. And then you have the mint one, which the mint one, it hits and it goes up. So the mint one is going to open up the sinuses. Yeah. So I like all of them. A lot of us, mint's our favorite because we kind of like mint. I think the most potent one is the garlic thyme. I'm going to read the ingredients of the garlic thyme one just so you know why this is so amazing. You'll learn real quick why this stuff is so amazing. It's kind of small print here. It's mustard seed, chives, winter hollow, which I don't even know what that is, garlic toe and pearls, red scallion, white onions, garlic chives, Japanese and American ginger, shiso, which is a type of mint, thyme, basil flowers, yellow and green wasabi. I mean, wow. Raw apple cider vinegar, Himalayan crystal salt. I mean, it's pretty.
Yeah, it's
a Japanese formula.
Ingredients, and maybe you can explain a little bit more about this. But the formulators of this, it's like he partnered with a master Japanese herbalist.
Yes.
And they get very high quality, very specific. I mean, it mentioned like ginger toe or garlic toe, or I don't know what it was, but they use very specific parts of the plant and where it grows.
In season.
In season. And I don't remember exactly. They let it go for a long time. They're concentrated for a very long time, actually fermenting it, so it's actually even concentrating the compounds even more and enhancing them, and then putting it all in that concentrated formula into that Protect spray. So it's very potent, very powerful. It's not just getting those ingredients and throwing them together.
Totally. So yeah, I'd say that's our strongest formula.
Yeah. Again,
for knocking out serious throat issues. I like all the Olba stuff. I do. I mean, just because we're talking about peppermint, menthol, opening up breathing passages.
Olba's is very affordable, and it's been known to work a lot. It's not maybe quite as potent as the throat syrup, but it works great for a lot of things. We have, cough drops?
Cough drops, the cough syrup.
Cough syrup, lozenges, throat lozenges. So, but the Olba's blends all have the same combination of like herb extracts. They actually make a tea, which I love their tea.
Yeah.
And it's very convenient for a lot of people that maybe don't like to or don't have the time to pour hot water and boil something and all that. But they basically concentrated herbs and a tiny bit of I think it's grape sugar, and extracted them into little like pellets that are dissolvable in water. So the tea can help, and it's basically a respiratory. All these are basically respiratory throat blends. And they're just putting that same blend in a tea, in a cough syrup, in a cough drop.
Mm-hmm. Something that's really fun that we've just found works, if you guys haven't tried it, I don't know who first discovered it, but hot water, so like you're making a hot tea, but you put in the Olbas and you put in some of the Dandy blend. It's actually an amazing combo. It tastes amazing, and again, it just feels good. It opens everything up, and the Dandy blend's kind of like a coffee alternative, and it's good for the immune system and the liver and different things. So it's just kind of a fun combo. This cough syrup, so the Olbas cough syrup has the thyme, licorice root, plantain, horse chestnut, pine extract, the essential oils of peppermint, eucalyptus, cajeput, juniper, wintergreen, and clove. And then other ingredients is honey. And honey is actually well known for soothing and coating and healing the throat. The Manuka honey is really good for that.
Yeah.
So
those are definitely good. Yeah, and I want to highlight also our tea. We designed a throat coat tea that we designed. And a lot of people have been familiar with buying the boxed ones that are throat coat tea. Of course, we're a little partial to our blends. Because there's awesome herbs in those throat coat tea little bags, but a lot of times if you're experiencing some, you want a really strong medicinal dose, and so there's only a small amount of herbs in these little bags. So this you can use a larger amount. You can really boil it and get it down stronger. But a lot of these things we call them mucilaginous herbs. They get a little mucusy, and that might sound weird, but basically when you heat them and extract them, it gets a little thick and coats. It coats, soothes, heals. So yeah, I've had a lot of people, if you get that itchy, dry cough or there's something going on with the throat, this can soothe, it can heal. Yeah, especially at night. I find people get that itchy and it's hard to sleep because of that. I've had people like literally change their life because they're like, I haven't been able to sleep for 3 days. I get that itchy cough. It just won't stop. It won't stop. They get the tea and I put a little honey in it and drink it, and it soothes and helps them get over that, helps them sleep. But a great tea.
Let me tell you,
it tastes good.
I was just going to say, what's really cool about this tea is it tastes good.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll make up like a quart of this at a time, and our whole family will drink. And our kids are used to drinking this. We make a big pot of tea. We give it to all our kids. We don't even have to add sweetener. It's naturally sweet. It's licorice root, slippery elm, marshmallow root, ginger, orange peel, cinnamon, wild cherry bark. It's actually a very, very good tasting tea. So for your kids, for colds, flus, coughs, the throat stuff, the throat coat tea is nice. Yeah. Hallelujah. All right, what do we got? What do we got left? Lung? Is there anything else you got with cough? I mean, there are the little cough drops. I can just mention them.
Yeah, also the silver cough drops.
Oh, yeah, so we got lots of drops. We got the Breathe ones by doTERRA, On Guard, which are more for, immune system.
Yeah, and I feel like most just generic cough drops, they're going to have a lot of sugar, and then they're usually really only using like a little menthol or something like that, which can definitely soothe, but these are going to have a lot more potent things. For example, the silver, I mean, we have one that has vitamin C, but it actually has the silver that can kill infectious things. And then, some of these have other essential oils and herbs mixed in them. So it's a lot more potent and what am I trying to say? Effective.
Yes.
Much more effective, and less harmful to your body. So these are great to use.
In other words, these are the things you want to bring with you when you're traveling. Like if you're traveling somewhere and you're going on an airplane and you just want to prevent sickness, and people will bring these drops with them just for prevention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, why don't we go on to,
last topic?
Lungs, which we kind of touched on briefly, but lungs, breathing issues, asthma, stuff like that. Yeah,
so same concept. We want to partner with how God designed the body. We don't think coughing is bad. We don't think mucus coming out of the body is bad. We think this is a natural process of the body trying to remove something that it doesn't want. So we want to partner with that process. And again, most of the medical drugs are designed to stop that process. Now we understand there's a time and a place for that, and it might save a life. But think of somebody like who's asthmatic, and they're literally like confined to this steroid inhaler as like their lifeline that they may live or not if they have this thing available to them. And it's just unfortunate. We shouldn't have to live that way. And again, if we partner with the body and help come out what needs to come out, we wouldn't have to rely on inhalers and such things.
Yeah, and maybe real quick, you can expand a little bit more on that. Is asthma a disease, or is it a symptom that the body's trying to do something, and we need to understand it and actually help it and figure out what the root of it's going on? So what have you seen in your experience with that?
Yeah, I mean, just what he said. It's just all these things are a sign of a symptom of an imbalance, too much congestion, too much mucus, infection in the lungs. Like I always say, there's cause and effect. Something causes these things. You don't have an issue from nothing. Something causes it. So when you have mucus and congestion in your lungs to the point where it's so bad you need an asthma inhaler, you have chronic lung congestion. You have mucus in your lungs. You might have, like Mike had alluded to earlier, you might have mold issues in your home or environment or something that's causing these breathing problems. I mean, I think everybody can attest to knowing somebody that, if not themselves, who has had a mold issue that's affect their breathing and their immune system. And so, again, something causes these things.
Yeah. So just always asking the question, what's going on? What is the body trying to do? And what's the root of it? And so just, if there's anybody out there that has asthma and you've had it for a long time, you've had it since you were a kid, there are answers. There are reasons that are going on that you can figure out, and actually, we've seen people get over it and actually fix the root issues and not have to use inhalers, not have asthma symptoms anymore. although those inhalers can be, like Vaughn said, in certain situations, life-saving, needed. But yeah, when we're reliant on them, there's something deeper going on, and we need to recognize what that is.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the Lord just reminded me of another story I just wanted to share, so I'm going to highlight this. This just dropped into me. But I remember this mom that came to me with her son, and her son was, I don't remember how old he was, 10-ish probably, and he had asthma and allergies. Now, it was so bad and his issues were so serious that he couldn't go outside, which means he couldn't go play with his friends and things in the neighborhood. So this kid, this poor young boy, is confined to his home for fear of going outside, because as soon as he goes outside, all this stuff hits him so hard that he can't even function. And so, for a starter, she just wanted, I just want my son to be able to go outside and play with his friends. That was her goal. Yeah, that's awesome. So, good news is he was able to do that. So we talked about diet. We talked about some things he could do for his lungs and to open up his breathing passages. And in a very short time, I would say within a month, now, was he fully healed? Was he fully delivered of this? No. This is a process. But was he able to go outside all day and play with his friends with no issues? Yes. And that was huge for him and his family. And so again, if you just listen to what the medical community says, which we don't know why, there's nothing you can do, just take this inhaler. Again, that's not a quality of life that people are looking for out there. So let me give you, there's a couple of products I'm going to mention, but let me tell you a couple of just key things that you can easily do for breathing, opening the breathing passages, clearing up mucus. I have a little detox drink recipe that I give to people sometimes, but just let me tell you the basic things. You guys all know what these things are. You probably all have them in your home. And so let me tell you how simple it is. To help people with breathing, even to stop an asthma attack, things that open the breathing passages really quick is a little salt, a little sea salt in warm water. And so a little detox drink that people can do is warm water, a little bit of salt, a little bit of cayenne pepper, like liquid cayenne drops or a powdered cayenne, lemon juice. These are basic, simple things people have at their house. And what these basic ingredients do, like sea salt, cayenne, lemon, is they displace and dispel and thin mucus. So when you thin mucus, everything starts moving better and easier. You start breathing better. And it just starts to open things up. And it helps with circulation and all that. But that's our goal, is to kind of thin and displace and move mucus, because what happens, it gets tight and it gets congested, and that's when you can't breathe and you feel like you need an inhaler. So, yeah. And I always tell people, if you start to get stuff loosening up in your lungs, where you're actually starting to cough and hear mucus and have stuff actually starting to come up and out, that's actually a good sign.
Yeah, I want to get it out. Yeah, and again, the heat and movement, I love the steam inhalation. It could be just water itself, or adding, our sinus tea, essential oils. That heat and breathing it deep into the lungs can really help to loosen things up and get that out.
Yep. So a couple things I've been using for years is everything Ridgecrest is good. You can't go wrong if it's a Ridgecrest product. Extra Clear Lungs Extra Strength. There's a regular Clear Lungs, there's an Extra Strength. Honestly, I don't even know much about the regular Clear Lungs, because I've always used the Extra Strength for years. It's just what I recommend. It works. People love it. It opens everything up. People can breathe better, not need their inhaler as much, etc. So I love the Clear Lungs Extra Strength. And I like the Deep Lung by Wish Garden, because again, our goal is to loosen up gunk in here and to even maybe help things come out. There's a word called expectorant or expectoration, where it's actually loosening up and bringing up mucus and stuff. And so some of the herbs in here act as expectorants. Let me see if I can see what's in here. This one is elecampane, angelica root, yerba santa, yarrow, mullein, hawthorn, yerba mansa, and garlic and osha. So osha is probably the last ingredient because it's so strong.
Osha's pretty powerful.
Yeah, but it's an amazing herb for pulling up stuff out of the lungs. So is yarrow. So it's a really good, strong formula. And you can do that. Again, Mike had mentioned it earlier. I'll just mention it again. You can do large doses of these things safely. You're not going to hurt yourself with herbs. And that's why herbs are so powerful. If you wanted to take this every couple of hours because you've got a serious issue, just do it. And again, you might start to pull and draw stuff out, and that's a good thing. So,
yeah, those are some of our main ones. I mean, there are some really good formulas. I mean, Dr. Morse has a lot of great formulas. He does have a couple for the lungs. He has a lung detox, so kind of same thing, kind of like the deep lung. The lung detox, combination of herbs. I know he uses mullein and some of these different herbs, fenugreek, and he also has a 3-lung tea. So basically, Dr. Morse came up with this tea, and he calls it 3-lung tea because there's 3 ingredients: mullein, fenugreek, and
did you forget?
what's the third one? I'm blanking.
Pleurisy.
Pleurisy root. So those are great herbs for helping break up congestion, helping to get it out. So there is a tea, and we make a version of that called the lung tea. But then, he's also made a concentrated liquid extract of it called the 3-lung tea tincture. So those are all things, just all these herbs that are good for loosening things up. And so any which way about it is good, and the heat and is all good. Another mention I want to make, just, we're not going super in depth with like big time chronic issues, but this is a good mention. If somebody is having chronic issues and they're trying some of these things, not getting relief, there could be something deeper going on. For example, part of the detox pathways, if things are not getting out of the body through the normal pathways and things are forced into the blood more, that's going to put more pressure on the lungs to assist in the detoxification process. So they might be getting more burden because of a deeper internal thing going on. The liver's not functioning right. The colon and the bowels are having issues, and things aren't going out the normal pathways, the kidneys. And that could be putting more pressure on the lungs, the kidneys, the skin in this detoxification pathway. So there can be deeper things that we're here to help navigate, help to identify, to take pressure off of. Because the body will use the lungs as a detox pathway. Right. It's not its primary, role as far as like toxins and all that. Of course, it expels carbon dioxide, but it could take on a lot more burden than it was originally supposed to.
Yeah, and just in addition to that, remember the body's a drainage system. Okay, so everything, like, we know stuff comes out through here, right? We know that we go to the bathroom and we get stuff out through here, right? So we know our kidneys are important, our colon's important, we know stuff comes out through here. But when things aren't working in here, like Mike said, the colon, the liver, things are congested down here, it actually causes the system to back up all the way up. So people have these chronic sinus issues, and you can use all these things we talked about, and they can help because we're clearing up congestion here. But I really want people to understand is a lot of times the congestion up here is because of congestion down here. And you actually start to do a colon cleanse and work on your liver. Guess what? All of a sudden, we've experienced it. We've had clients tell us, right, that they feel the drainage in their head. They feel things draining out of their head because they're working on colon cleansing, liver. Right?
Yeah, take some products and they're feeling, because if this is working that main pathway, everything above it is now draining down. So, So just wanted to make that point.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's great. Well, hallelujah. I think that's it. Ear, nose, and throat. Do we have any questions? We could take a few questions.
I have one last thing that could just be a practical thing, and I don't know if I learned this from you or from somebody else. I call it garlic shooters. It's just a great, of course, we're talking about our products, but, there is a lot of things, like Vaughn was mentioning, things you have at home that you can just use. So I've used this and given this formula to several people. Make a thing of hot water, put a little raw honey in it, some lemon, and then here's the really potent part of it. You can grate some fresh ginger in there, and then take 2 or 3 or 4 cloves of garlic and put them through a garlic press, put them in there, stir it up, and drink it. Oh, and also apple cider vinegar, like a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. So call it garlic shooters, so you don't have to chew on the garlic. People do that too, but if you don't like the taste of garlic, you can press it, mix it up in with that solution, drink it down really quick, and that's super antibacterial, super healing. For a lot of good reasons. It's going to help the throat. If you're having throat issues, I've had people do that. Just, hey, practically, if you got this at home right now, come and get some more potent products. But in the meantime, put some of these together and use them right away. Very antibacterial, helping with things going on in the throat, helping to soothe. And it's also just getting it in your bloodstream to help your whole immune system.
Right. And so, and just as a reminder, our goal is to empower people. Our goal is to say that God is a good designer of the body, and we don't need medications that interfere with the natural processes of how God designed the body. We need to understand the body. We need to work with the symptoms, not to see them as bad, but to see them as something we need to partner with to cleanse and heal the body naturally. Our goal is to see people get off of a man-made medical system and onto God's system of empowerment, self-care, using herbs and natural things to bring health and healing to the body. So we hope this has been helpful, and God bless you.